You can't solve every case for your kids, but with Greenlight, they'll have the instincts and the money skills to stay out of trouble. With a Greenlight debit card and money app, parents can monitor spending and teach financial responsibility. It's an easy way to guide kids as they grow, from earning allowance and tracking chores to learning how to save and even invest. Start your risk-free Greenlight trial today at greenlight.com/Wondery. That's greenlight.com/Wondery.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 444 of the True Crime All the Time Unsolved podcast. I'm Mike Ferguson, and with me, as always, is my partner in true crime, Mike Gibson. Gibby, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing okay. How about you?
I'm doing great, man.
Always got to outdo me, don't you?
Yeah. If you say good, I'll say great. If you say great, I'll say stupendous. Just kind of how we roll. Let's go ahead and give our Patreon shout-outs. We had Estilla Gilbert.
Hey, Estilla.
Tracy Fickner jumped out to our highest level.
Oh, awesome. Thanks, Tracy.
Jen Thurmer.
Hey, Jen.
Davina Bruce.
Thanks, Bruce.
Dale Witten.
Hey, Witten.
Batgirl 138.
Well, there's somebody's internet log on.
Yeah, that did kind of seem like a possible password to me.
It does. But thanks, Batgirl.
We had A.
Hey, A.
Brock Hall jumped out to our highest level.
Thanks, Brock.
Estefania.
Estefania, thank you so much.
Kristen Murphy.
Hey, Murphy.
And last but not least, Marcia Iacone. Or Iacone.
Well, Iacone also.
I've said it 3 or 4 different ways. Hopefully one of those is right.
Well, we'll find out.
And then if we go back into the vault, this week we selected Nicholas Isby.
Thanks, Nicholas.
Yeah, we appreciate the new support, the continued support. So Gibbs, right now on TCAT, we have our second and last part on Brittany Drexel. You know, we get into the technology that finally led to an arrest and how the case kind of unfolded in recent years. Just so fascinating to do a case on TCAT that we did unsolved, 6 years ago?
Yeah.
That has now been solved, and it was very interesting.
Love it when they get solved.
All right, buddy, are you ready to get into this episode of True Crime All the Time Unsolved?
I am.
We're talking about Andre Jones. Andre was an 18-year-old from Jackson, Mississippi, who was arrested at a sobriety checkpoint days before he was supposed to start his freshman year of college. Shortly after his arrest, Andre was found hanging in a prison shower. Officials said Andre ended his life because he was despondent about being caught driving a stolen vehicle and facing the prospect of going to prison. However, his family has argued that Andre's death was a lynching disguised as a suicide. So a fascinating case, but not the first that we've done where authorities have said that someone took their life, but the family just does not buy it.
Yeah, like you said, we've done several of these over the years, and you can understand why maybe a family member or members disagree with what the police or the medical examiner says.
Now, the sources used for this episode didn't provide a ton of information on Andre's early life, but we know that overall he seemed like a happy, normal teenager who was on the right track. Andre's mother, Esther, was president of the Jackson, Mississippi branch of the NAACP. His stepfather, Charles X. Quint, was a Nation of Islam minister. So it seems like, his mom and his stepfather were leading very productive lives. You would think there would be some structure in the home. He would have rules, and they would help guide him to, be the best person he could. And it does seem like he was doing well.
It seemed like it.
Andre turned 18 on May 14th, 1992. He had plans to start his freshman year as an engineering major at Alcorn State University in Mississippi. Andre died just one day before he was supposed to start classes. Around 11:45 p.m. on August 21st, 1992, Andre and his girlfriend Tanisha Love stopped at his parents' house in Jackson. When they left, they headed east towards Brandon, where Tanisha lived. Andre was driving his friend's truck, which he'd been borrowing for over a week. Around 1 a.m. on August 22nd, Andre and Tanisha approached a sobriety checkpoint near the city limits. According to the Clarion Ledger, when Andre came upon the traffic stop, the truck swerved before it stopped. Andre didn't have his license, so he was instructed to pull over onto the shoulder. An officer walking up from the rear of the truck saw a pistol being thrown out of the driver's side window. A loaded .38 caliber Smith & Wesson revolver was found nearby.
So that's alarming, having a loaded .38, tossing it out of the window.
Well, and it's also, I hate to say it, but it's not the smartest thing to do. Do you not see this officer walking up and you don't think he's going to see this gun flying through the air? Inside the truck was an open can of beer. According to Brandon Police Chief Walter Tucker, who later spoke to Andre made mention he was trying to hide a can of beer when he swerved. The truck Andre was driving had been reported stolen. On July 22nd, the tag was stolen from a different vehicle, and the VIN had been changed. So, man, he is in a world of trouble.
Yeah, no license, gun out the window, in a stolen vehicle.
Open can of beer. Andre was arrested and eventually charged with 4 counts. Driving a truck with an altered VIN, carrying a concealed weapon, possession of stolen license plate tags, and driving with an open container of alcohol. Andre's girlfriend got a ride with her brother's friend. She soon called Andre's parents and told them that he'd been arrested. And man, that is, as a parent, not a call that you want to receive.
No, I mean, I've had some calls in the early morning or late night, however you want to call it, but not a call like that. That's a call like you would say, what the heck is going on here?
Especially when you learned about the number and the severity of the charge.
Yes.
Brandon Police Chief Walter Tucker came to the station after 2 a.m. when officers called him to assist in determining the truck's VIN. According to Tucker, one of the officers met me and said, "Chief, you ought to talk to Jones. He is really telling us stuff." Andre reportedly told 2 officers he was or had been affiliated with the Folks, a gang in Jackson. Sergeant J.E. Henley said he and Corporal Tony Compton talked to Andre about gangs after Andre was fingerprinted and photographed. They didn't put the gang information in the arrest report. Chief Tucker said that a totality of circumstances led officers to ask about gangs. Some of those circumstances were that Andre had his cap turned to the right, his truck was stolen, and he had a gun.
His cap was turned to the right?
Maybe that's a gang sign. I don't know. I've seen a lot of people wear their hats kind of turned left or right, but never made anything out of it as far as it being a sign of something.
I also find it, for me, I find it a little strange that the police chief was called in at 2:00 in the morning to help do some research on a VIN number. I mean, do you really need to wake the chief up at 2:00 at night for that? Can that not wait until the next day?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe this was a big case for them. Yeah. Who knows? Andre agreed to be photographed while displaying gang hand gestures as long as his face wasn't shown. He also drew gang symbols. Okay. I don't know what you make of this. He agreed to it. I mean, that makes it seem as though they asked him, "Hey, can we photograph you while you're making gang hand gestures?"
Right.
Now, yeah, I'll do it. Just don't show my face.
Just seems like a strange request.
And then also, can you draw a bunch of gang symbols? For what? Andre told Chief Tucker he borrowed the truck from a man he knew as Slim. He paid Slim $20 to use the truck. Andre also said he purchased the gun a year earlier in Jackson.
Man, I tried to rent your truck for $20, and you know what you told me.
Stop trying to rent things you don't own. But also, $20 to use somebody's vehicle for what was said to have been a week, that's not a lot of money.
Yeah, kind of maybe a red flag.
Possibly. Also, we don't know this guy's real name. We only know him as Slim.
That's something I've never been called.
Slim?
Yeah.
Been called Tiny, but not Slim.
I'm not taking the bait.
In a later news conference, Andre's parents denied that he owned or carried guns or associated with gangs. The Jackson police said they never identified Andre as a gang member. Since to me, it just gets very strange, this part of it. So they never really identified him as a gang member, but they were asking him about gangs, being in a gang. They asked to photograph him making gang hand signs. I mean, it's a strange part of the case.
I mean, he's not here to give his side, but they offered that up, like you said. And that is strange.
The family's lawyer accused the police of assuming Andre was a gang member because he was a young black man. Friends and family said Andre was quiet and not the type to join a gang. According to Chief Tucker, Andre appeared calm during questioning, and he said it looked like he enjoyed talking with us. Andre called his parents around 2 a.m. from the Brandon police station. He said he didn't know what he was being charged with. And it's hard for me, Gibbs, not to, kind of draw attention to what seemed to be some really stark differences here in the way that everybody saw Andre, the way that they talked about him, the things they said, and then some of the things he was said to have done that night. All right, he's driving this guy's truck. Did he really have permission? Did he not? Did he know that the VIN was incorrect? The tags were incorrect? I'm assuming that this was not the other guy's open beer can. You would think you'd get rid of that before driving around.
Right.
And then there's this throwing a gun out of the window, and he doesn't seem to dispute that. He says he bought the gun a year earlier.
Yes, I mean, you can say, okay, the gun charge, the driving without a license, and the open container. The other things can easily be disputed, right? I mean, if I paid him $20 to use the vehicle, I didn't know.
I didn't steal it.
Yeah.
Right, he let me use it. Around 4 a.m., Andre called his parents again and said he was being transferred to the Simpson County Jail, which was 40 miles south of Jackson. Andre and another inmate were taken to Simpson County because the Rankin County Jail, and that's the county he was arrested in, was full. Esther Quinn said that at this point, Andre still didn't know what he was being charged with.
Do you think he didn't know? Do you think he didn't want to? Or do you think he didn't want to tell his parents what he was in trouble for?
It's a great question. I don't think we know for sure the answer. Esther told Unsolved Mysteries. We were told that they could not tell us anything at that time, and Simpson County just refused to even talk to us. And they told us that we could not come to their jail. Sergeant J.E. Henley reported that Andre briefly talked with an unknown person on the phone before he left. Henley offered him another call since he had cooperated with him, but Andre declined. Andre was booked into the Simpson County Jail at 4:10 a.m., per the Clarion Ledger. Andre had to hand over his personal items, but he got to keep his shoes and shoelaces. Jail policy only required inmates under 18 to give up their shoelaces and belts. And to be honest with you, I found this very strange. I think I've talked about it with you, but I've been watching this show 60 Days In, right? Where they kind of send these people in undercover. You get to see a little bit what different jails are like. It's like one of the first things they do is they take your shoes and they give you these kind of weird flip-floppy clog type shoes.
Slippers like?
Like little rubber slippers.
Yeah.
But nobody's wearing their own shoes very early on in the process, seems like.
Well, maybe they give them those rubber flip-flop things, so when they start throwing things around, it's not going to really hurt anybody.
Yeah, as opposed to what? Metal flip-flops? Yeah. I'm assuming that's why. They're also probably easier to clean and things like that. Less likely used as a weapon. Andre was taken to a cell that housed 11 other adults ranging in age from 25 to 47. The majority of them were booked on nonviolent misdemeanors, mostly alcohol related. And, that's the thing to me about jail. You could be in there with really any type of person charged with a range from murder all the way down to drunken disorderly.
Yeah. You just don't know.
When it comes to holiday gifting, I want to give things people really love. Beautiful, timeless pieces they'll wear for years. That's why I'm going with Quince. From Mongolian cashmere sweaters to Italian wool coats, everything is premium quality at a price that actually makes sense. And Quince has something for everyone. Soft Mongolian cashmere sweaters for $50 that look and feel like designer pieces, silk tops and skirts for dressing up, perfectly cut denim for everyday wear, and outerwear that actually keeps you warm. Every piece is made with premium materials from ethical, trusted factories and priced far below what other luxury brands charge. And their craftsman shows in every detail, from the stitching to the fit, the drape. It's all elevated, timeless, and made to wear on repeat. I recently bought my wife one of the Mongolian cashmere sweaters. She is in love with it. And one of the first things she said was that the quality is so amazing for the price. That's what she really noticed. Find gifts so good you'll want to keep them with Quince. Go to quince.com/truecrime for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. That's QUINCE.com/truecrime to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/truecrime. When Gibby and I started the podcast, there were so many things that we had to figure out all on our own. What was the right setup? How do you get a logo? How do you publish a podcast? All of it was super overwhelming, and every day seemed to introduce a new decision that needed an answer. Finding the right tool that not only helps you out, but simplifies everything can be such a game changer. For millions of businesses, that tool is Shopify. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world. And 10% of all e-commerce in the U.S., from household names like Mattel to podcasts like True Crime All the Time. They make it easy to get started with your own design studio. Shopify is packed with helpful AI tools that write product descriptions, page headlines, and even enhance your product photography. Easily create email and social media campaigns wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling. And best yet, Shopify is your commerce expert with world-class expertise in everything from managing inventory to international shipping to processing returns and beyond. If you're ready to sell, you're ready for Shopify. Turn your big business idea into with Shopify on your side. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/TCAT. Go to shopify.com/TCAT. Shopify.com/TCATT. One of the men Andre talked to was 32-year-old Garrison Spann, who had been there 4 days for grand larceny. Spann told the Clarion Ledger that when Andre entered the cell, he seemed like on the edge to where he was unsure of himself, like, what's happening? What's going on? Well, I can imagine that's exactly the way that I probably would look when I entered jail, if I ever did. Not to mention the fact that, this kid is young. I'm assuming he does not have an extensive experience in jail, prison. So I think that would be scary for anyone.
Yeah, I think so.
Andre laid on his bunk and didn't eat much during breakfast, lunch, and dinner. He remained quiet. He made 3 calls to his parents at 10:21 a.m., 3:13 p.m., and 6:47 p.m. All the calls were less than 5 minutes.
I wonder if he was like, hey, get me out of here.
Well, I don't know that they could, right? Until a bond is set, assuming a bond is set. But until it is set, I don't know what you can do.
Wait until your court date, I guess.
The Clarion Ledger reported that Andre showed no signs of distress during his phone calls. However, Esther told Unsolved Mysteries, we couldn't tell him anything. He was very much concerned about getting out immediately so that he could attend school the very next day. Spann and 4 other inmates said they didn't think anything was seriously wrong, and they didn't hear anyone else threaten Andre. In separate conversations, Andre told Garrison Spann and inmate Elsie Hayes he was worried about getting prison time, and he hoped his mother didn't find out about the stolen truck. And that goes back to something you said, Gibbs, when he told them that he didn't know what he was being charged with. You asked the question, and I'm going to reiterate it, was it because he just didn't want his mom to know? And I do think that's a real distinct possibility.
Yeah, I agree.
Andre asked Spann, do you think I will get some time for that? Referring to the stolen truck. Spann responded, I doubt it. You might get probation or something like that.
Yeah, but it's not going to look good for you.
No, it's not going to look great. But when we know that Andre Jones is supposedly going to end his life, the lead up to it, the conversations, his state of mind, all of that, I think, is pretty important to talk about. And getting probation versus doing serious time, those are 2 very different things.
Yeah.
And the level of concern would be different depending on what you thought you were facing. Andre also asked Spann about his time at the state penitentiary at Parchment. He wanted to know if the inmates beat each other up. Spann told him, it's all right. It's what you make of it.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. It makes sense to me. You're going to see some things. You're going to make the best of what you can while you're there.
Also, I don't know how it is on the level of prisons, but I have not heard great things about Parchment. I think it might be a pretty rough one.
One of those rougher places?
Yeah, I don't know if it's Angola, but I don't think it's somewhere where you really want to go. Not that any prison is, right? But, I think by this line of questioning, what you get is a young guy, right? 18 years old, asking a lot of questions about what he might be facing or potentially could be facing, because it does sound like he was really worried about it. And who wouldn't be, right?
Yeah, I mean, that would only be logical.
Inmate Archie Burford told the Clarion Ledger that Andre had mentioned he would go crazy if he had to stay up in something like this, referring to the county jail. According to Burford, Andre was worried about something else that Brandon police were trying to put on him. He said they told him he would get 15 years. They probably scared him.
Well, 15 years is nothing to joke about,
No, and let's be honest, police can scare people. I mean, that is one tactic they use. Hey, if you don't, come clean, you're looking at many, many years of hard time, right? They're trying to scare him into being honest or, telling them what they want to know.
Tell us more. We got you on this stolen truck, this weapon you threw out the window, driving without a license. They can put that pressure on you and make you feel like we can go easy on you. We can make things a little tougher. And we think you got more to tell us.
Andre did not leave the cell at 7 p.m. to go to the church service. He was still in his bunk when the other inmates returned. That night, Andre asked Garrison Spann how to use the shower. Spann was sleeping in a bunk near the shower. Neither he nor the other inmates who spoke to the Clarion Ledger could say exactly when Andre went to the shower. However, Archie Burford said he spoke to Andre until he fell asleep, around 10 p.m. Another cellmate walked into the shower around 11 p.m., but quickly returned and told Spann someone was in there. Until that point, Spann hadn't noticed Andre was missing. Spann went into the shower and found Andre facing the corner. The shower was a very dimly lit area, and it was difficult to see without a flashlight. And that seems very strange to me. You would think you would want as many lights as possible.
I would think so too.
Especially in the shower, which you don't want is an area that's very dimly lit.
Not where you want to be, especially with your clothes off.
Spann told the Clarion Ledger, I said, "Hey, dude, you can't take a shower with pants on." I touched him. He kind of like pulled back. Felt like to me he had moved. He had his hands down by his side. I didn't really notice if his feet were off the floor. Spann and another inmate left, but returned moments later when Andre failed to come out of the shower. Spann realized something wasn't right. Elsie Hayes entered the shower area and saw Andre. He also touched him and called out to him, but Andre didn't respond. At that point, trustee Bobby Bowen fetched jailer Randy Crawford for help. Bowen obtained a flashlight and shined it into the dark shower stall. He observed that Jones's feet were on the floor. His knees were buckled. His hands were down by his side. His head was down. The black shoestring was going up behind his neck to the bar that was part of a grill above Jones's head. It was tight around his neck. I told Randy Crawford this man hanged himself. Authorities estimated Andre had been in the shower less than an hour. So I don't know if this is a situation, Gibbs, where they turned the shower lights off at night, maybe, so that people could sleep.
Maybe.
Can't imagine you would have a dimly lit shower area.
I'm actually surprised the showers are available after like a certain time. Like after 8 o'clock, the showers are off limit until...
Well, and maybe they turned the lights off thinking people wouldn't use them.
Yeah.
But it does seem strange. Spann told the Clarion Ledger he appeared to be a strong guy to me, but there was no way for anybody to have got to him because I sleep right by the shower door. And if something had happened, I would have heard a struggle.
I think it depends on what type of struggle would occur.
Yeah, but I mean, what is he really saying? That in his mind, it wasn't like someone or a group of people went in there and did something to him.
Right.
Because according to him, he would have heard it. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, he's saying, he looked like a strong kid. He'd probably fight back. Clearly, if you're sitting outside that shower, you're probably going to hear some fighting going on.
Around midnight, the Quinns heard a knock on their door. It was a Jackson police officer who handed Esther a note. The only thing written on the note was the phone number for the Simpson County Jail. Esther immediately called and received the devastating news that Andre had died of suicide. She told Unsolved Mysteries, I was casually informed, as if they could have been talking to someone that didn't even know who he was.
So was informed of his death in a cold way?
I mean, I think that's what she's saying. Now, it could be that, all right, they didn't have a connection to him. They didn't know him. They were informing her, but they didn't do it in, the kind of soft way that most of us would.
Right.
But Andre's parents had their doubts from the beginning. Andre had never shown suicidal tendencies and had never suffered from depression. He also had no prior arrest record, and the charges he was facing were misdemeanors. It was unlikely he would have received a jail sentence. And, that goes back to, him asking Spann, right? What am I going to get? Am I going to get time? Spann says, no, you're probably going to get probation. Now, there's no way for sure he could have known that. Esther and Charles began to look into Andre's death and the circumstances surrounding his arrest. Andre's girlfriend, Tanisha Love, revealed that the moment Andre gave his name to officers, their demeanor changed. According to Tanisha, after they asked him his name, they all went to a little huddle, almost like a football huddle. I don't know what they were talking about because they were talking low. And after that, that's when they came to the truck and asked Andre again, did he have his license? And he said, no, sir, don't have my license. And they asked him to step out of the truck. And that's when they handcuffed him. They shackled his feet and they had him handcuffed at the same time. I didn't understand what was going on.
Well, I get it. You see all these police officers huddling together, talking about something. Maybe they're talking about, okay, what do we got here? We got a guy that doesn't have a driver's license, open container, tossed the weapon out the window. What do we want to do here? Or is she thinking that because now they know his name, that's related to something, and that's what's causing them to cuff him and shackle him?
However, State Public Safety Commissioner Jim Ingram said Andre was never shackled. He disagreed with Tanisha's account of events, saying there was no confrontation whatsoever with young Andre Jones. In fact, the officers were very amazed how cooperative he was. Although the public safety commissioner maintained that the arrest was non-confrontational, Andre's stepfather, Charles Quinn, spoke to an inmate in Brandon who told him the police used racial slurs to intimidate Andre. According to Charles, one of the inmates who was transferred with Andre said that the officer said, "Do you know what happens to," and he used the N-word, "for stealing a white man's truck?" And of course, other statements were said to put fear in Andre. And obviously, I'm not going to say that word, but Unsolved Mysteries didn't omit it.
Yeah.
They actually, in their article, put it in there. I get it. I just, obviously, I'm not going to say that word. Charles Quinn was allowed to see the shower inside the cell at the Simpson County Jail. He estimated that the ceiling grate was 8 feet above the floor.
It's pretty high up.
Well, it is. I mean, you figure, I don't know how tall this guy was, but let's just say he was 6 feet.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you reach 2 more feet up in the air? Possibly. But can you reach far enough to, tie something? I don't know. That makes it a little tougher, I think.
I mean, you'd have to have a pretty good vertical leap, be able to get your hand through the grate and hold yourself up there for an extended period of time while you loop something through and down. I think it'd be very difficult to do.
Well, and we don't know what the grate was like. You're assuming that it was wide enough that you could actually get your hand through it.
Well, that's true.
We don't know that. According to Charles, he would need someone to have held him up to do that, and he would have needed some type of stool to stand on. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of Happy Mammoth, the brand dedicated to making women's lives easier with science-backed, nature-inspired supplements. One of their best sellers is the prebiotic collagen protein, designed to support gut health and overall well-being. My wife started taking Happy Mammoth's prebiotic collagen protein, and it's been a real game changer for her. This isn't just any collagen. It's specifically formulated with prebiotics that help nourish the gut lining and support digestive comfort. It's different because most collagen powders on the market only focus on skin, hair, and nails. But Happy Mammoth's prebiotic collagen protein combines grass-fed collagen peptides with prebiotic fibers to help nourish your gut bacteria. This unique blend means you're not just taking collagen, you're giving your body a complete gut and wellness boost. Happy Mammoth uses only science-backed ingredients formulated for women. They never compromise on quality, and that really shows in the benefits their customers experience. Right now, you can try prebiotic collagen protein risk-free and get 15% off your entire first order with code UNSOLVED at checkout. That's happymammoth.com. Use code UNSOLVED for 15% off today. True Crime All the Time Unsolved is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Because Progressive offers discounts for paying in full, owning a home, and more. Plus, you can count on their great customer service to help you when you need it, so your dollar goes a long way. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save on car insurance. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations. It was Simpson coroner Bobby Williams who ruled Andre's death a suicide. Williams said the imprint around Andre's neck matched the size and imprint of his shoelaces. According to Simpson County Sheriff Lloyd Jones, there was no evidence Andre was murdered. Authorities believed he removed the laces from his sneakers, tied one part to the grill above him, and put the other part on his neck. He then squatted and cut his hair off. And so, this is something that comes up a lot, right? There was no evidence that something occurred. And I understand what that means.
Yeah.
You can't say something happened when you have no evidence to support it.
True.
But that doesn't mean it couldn't have happened. I do think there's a distinction to be made there, but also, if you're the coroner, if you're the sheriff, and everything is lining up with suicide, and there's no evidence to the contrary, what conclusion are you going to come to?
I still think it'd be tough to take a shoestring, somehow get it through the grate, to tie a knot that's going to support your weight, and then tie another knot to your other shoestring and hope that supports your weight too. I don't know. It just seems difficult. Not saying that it wouldn't work.
Yeah, I don't think it's impossible, but I get what you're saying, right? There's a lot that factors in. First of all, you got to know how to tie a pretty good knot, I would think, to make sure that all of this is strong enough to do what it is you want it to do. The Clarion Ledger reported that Andre was wearing Air Jordan sneakers, and the laces for those shoes were typically over 50 inches long. And so that is an important fact, right? If you've got basketball type shoes, I don't know if they were high tops. I'm assuming they were. All right, maybe the laces are going to be a little bit longer than like a pair of dress shoes.
Yeah.
Or something like that. The Clarion Ledger also reported that the two pathologists who examined Andre cited contradictory factual information when making their conclusions. The first autopsy was conducted by state medical examiner Dr. Stephen Hain, who concluded Andre died of suicide. The following evidence supported the suicide conclusion: the lack of bruises or significant trauma on Andre's body other than the marks made by the shoelace around his neck, the absence of material such as another person's skin underneath Andre's fingernails, which would indicate a struggle. Andre's feet were touching the floor. In such hangings, a victim bends their knees to put pressure on the neck. Just 11 pounds of pressure can cause a loss of consciousness. Shoelaces can sustain significant weight if the impact is not sudden. A shoelace from a pair of Air Jordans, like the ones Andre had, can routinely sustain 159 pounds, although the actual laces routinely test at 170 to 175 pounds per Nike officials.
Well, that's interesting.
It is, because I would not have guessed that it would actually have been that high. Andre weighed 160 pounds. And because his feet were on the floor, the string didn't have to support his entire body weight. Dr. Hain told Unsolved Mysteries that investigators demonstrated it was possible for Andre to have hung himself without aid, saying that position was easily reached by a member of the sheriff's office who was acting as the decedent. So obviously they had somebody try to do or duplicate what they thought he did, and they were able to do it. Now, does that mean he hung himself? No. But I think that and the findings of the medical examiner, what they do is support the fact that it could have happened that way.
Yeah.
Easily. They didn't find anything that would have ruled that out. After Andre died, his parents publicly expressed their belief that he didn't end his life. They believe someone killed him. The Jackson NAACP issued a statement that it supports the family's position that foul play is suspected and asked that the appropriate authorities investigate, including the FBI. Benny Page, vice president of the Jackson chapter of the NAACP, said members believe there are too many unanswered questions and mysterious circumstances surrounding Andre's death, namely that he was not despondent when talking to his mother during the time in jail. He had no prior arrest record, and to our knowledge, no apparent reason for taking his life.
And knowing that, that's how the family is looking at this, why would they believe that he took his life? They're going to challenge that. And I think any family would.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, if you look at things, yes, obviously he did something wrong. He was in trouble. But what was it going to amount to? And according to some of the people he talked to in jail, right, maybe as little as probation. So if that was the case, would that make him despondent to the point where he would end his life. And I think if you're the family, you're looking at those types of things and saying, no, why would he?
Right.
He's got family. We're going to support him. Okay, even if he did some things wrong, he'll pay for that in whatever sentence it's going to be, but it may just be probation, which, okay, not great. You're going to have a record of something, but misdemeanors, it's not that bad. But how did he view it?
And for him to do what he did, if that's what they're being told, you would think it had to be really bad.
Like he was going to spend the rest of his life in jail bad.
Yeah.
But, different people take things differently. The Mississippi FBI said the agency was investigating and the findings would be forwarded to the Civil Rights Division of the DOJ. In late August, the family sought a second autopsy to resolve questions about Andre's death. The Nation of Islam helped the family hire Dr. James Bryant, an independent pathologist from Chicago. At a news conference, Esther and Charles Quinn said Andre was killed for several reasons, including because of his race and because of their positions with the NAACP and Nation of Islam. Family attorney Chakwe Lumumba said the parents were not liked by racist authorities of the state, and they are not liked by racist authorities who worked for the state. Lumumba named the authorities at the Simpson County Jail as primary suspects in Andre's death. So here's the part, Gibbs, where we finally get into some of the reasons why the family doesn't believe that Andre hung himself. They believe he was killed, but they believe it was because of the color of his skin, but also their positions, right? His mom was really high up in the NAACP, and his stepfather, he was up there in the Nation of Islam.
And maybe that's why his girlfriend said, according to her, once they heard his name, all the police officers huddled and started whispering and looking back at him and continued talking about something that she couldn't hear.
Attorney Barry Howard suggested the hanging was staged, saying it seems to be more consistent with the theory he might have been killed elsewhere and brought back there. Sheriff Lloyd Jones said that this was absurd and that he didn't know Esther was the chairperson of the NAACP until the day after Andre died. Dr. James Bryant believed Andre's death was a classic textbook case of murder. According to his autopsy, the following evidence supported the homicide conclusion. There was evidence of blunt trauma to the face and upper arm near the shoulder. The absence of a knot mark from the shoelace indicated it could have been placed around his neck. The shoelace was tied above Andre 8 to 9 feet off the ground, and the body was left dangling about 2 feet off the ground. Dr. Bryant wrote, "It is physically impossible for someone to pick himself up by a shoestring and hang himself from the rafters of a shower stall without the aid of a chair or step stool." He explained in an interview with Unsolved Mysteries, in the unusual case of a suicide by hanging, the ligature mark is along the side of the neck and doesn't go all the way around. It's in this fashion, whereas in the case of Andre Jones, the ligature marking went along the side of his neck and all the way into the back and crisscrossed. This suggests to me that someone had to come behind and wrap the ligature around his neck. So, these two different autopsy reports, they're very interesting. One is basically being used to support the conclusion of suicide. The other is pointing to homicide. But they're examining the same thing.
Yeah, it blows my mind.
It always does, right? And when you get to trial, we talk about it all the time. You have a prosecution witness, sometimes multiple, defense witness, sometimes multiple, and they have such differing opinions on the same subject, the same evidence. Now, the crucial difference between the two autopsies was whether Andre's feet were touching the floor or if he was dangling. Dr. Hain wrote in his report that Andre's feet were on the floor, while Dr. Bryant wrote that Andre was dangling about 2 feet off the ground.
And I'm trying to remember at one point when they went in with the flashlight, did they say they saw his feet on the ground?
Yes, that he was crumpled up and his feet were on the ground. Now, according to the New York Times, Dr. Bryant's finding of homicide relied largely on a jailer's description of the body and the condition of the cell. This was at odds with other reports from the scene, just like you mentioned. In interviews, neither investigators, local reporters, nor inmates' lawyers related any reports of prisoners seeing jailers entering the cell or hearing a struggle. And Dr. Bryant even agreed there was no evidence of a struggle. The family and their attorneys presented Dr. Bryant's findings during a news conference on September 8th. They explained that Bryant's decision was based on the lack of a bruise on the front of Andre's neck. When a suicide by hanging occurs, a bruise is usually present on the front of the victim's neck. But that word usually, I think, is the key word in that sentence.
They didn't say always. They said usually.
Which means sometimes, but not always.
Yeah.
Could even mean most times, but not always. The family's attorney submitted the findings to the state attorney general in a letter requesting an investigation by an independent authority. And I get that, right? The family has a stance. The authorities have a stance. The family says, hey, we want an investigation done by an independent organization. I definitely get that. Attorney Chakwe Lumumba also said that Sheriff Lloyd Jones's background and the deaths of other black men in similar circumstances showed the need for an impartial party. Well, first of all, if they really did have something to do with the death of Andre Jones, then they would have a vested interest to skew the investigation into a suicide angle.
Of course.
There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they did. I'm just saying if that were the case. Lumumba also accused the sheriff of past racist behavior. According to the Clarion Ledger, Sheriff Jones was known for his aggressive role in dealing with civil rights activists when he was a highway patrol inspector. The holiday season can be stressful. Endless shopping, travel, tons of parties. When I need to slow down and actually relax, I reach for Sol's out-of-office gummies. The perfect balance of CBD and THC helps me find my calm and keep my peace of mind. Sol is a wellness brand that believes feeling good should be fun and easy. Sol specializes in delicious hemp-derived THC and CBD products designed to boost your mood and help you unwind. Their best-selling out-of-office gummies were designed to provide a mild, relaxing buzz, boost your mood, and enhance creativity and relaxation. With 5 different strengths, you can tailor the dose to fit your vibe. From a gentle 1.5 milligram microdose to their newest 15 milligram gummy for a more elevated experience. And I choose the microdose. And I usually take it right before I go to bed. It just helps me come down from the day, relax, and I get a great sleep. Bring on the holiday cheer and treat yourself or someone you love to Sol this season. Right now, Sol is offering our audience 30% off your entire order. Go to getsol.com and use the code TrueCrime. That's getsol.com, promo code TrueCrime for 30% off. Homes.com knows that when it comes to home shopping, it's never just about the house or condo. It's about the home. And what makes a home is more than just the house or property. It's the location and the neighborhood. If you have kids, it's also schools, nearby parks, and transportation options. That's why Homes.com goes above and beyond to bring home shoppers the in-depth information they need to find the right home. And when I say in-depth, I'm talking deep. Each listing features comprehensive information about the neighborhood, complete with a video guide. They also have details about local schools with test scores, state rankings, and student-to-teacher ratio. They even have an agent directory with the sales history of each agent. So when it comes to finding a home, not just a house, this is everything you need to know, all in one place. Homes.com. We've done your homework. Dr. Stephen Hain said he stood by his ruling. Attorney General Mike Moore also told Andre's parents that the DA should be given an opportunity to see that the case was thoroughly investigated. However, just a few days later, State Attorney General Mike Moore met with Simpson County authorities and FBI agents and officially joined the investigation into Andre's death.
So I'm wondering if that came from a higher level and said, hey, we want you to be involved on this.
It could be, maybe it's getting a lot of attention, media scrutiny, because it does seem strange that he says, hey, the DA should be allowed to, investigate this case thoroughly. And then it's just a few days later that this guy jumps in. In January 1993, the U.S. Civil Rights Commission pledged their assistance in getting the DOJ to review the case. The Civil Rights Commission also voted to express concern to Attorney General nominee Zoe Baird about reported suicides of black men in Mississippi jails. Commission Chairman Arthur Fletcher said that of 44 reported suicides, 24 occurred in jail. The source of his figures were unavailable. Information from the state medical examiner's office showed 10 jail suicides by hanging in 1990 and 1991. 5 were black inmates and 5 were white inmates. Figures for 1992 were still incomplete, but by November, at least 3 black inmates and 1 white inmate had died in jail hangings that were ruled suicides. And I think, Gibbs, it was probably on Patreon, but I was telling you about this documentary I was watching about the Alabama prisons.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff that has come to light over the years, pretty shocking about what was done to inmates and then called either self-defense or suicide or well, there's a lot of people that have died.
Certainly didn't look good for the prison system.
No, not at all. On January 13th, 1993, Justice Department investigators issued their finding that Andre hanged himself in the Simpson County Jail. Family attorney Lumumba said in response, per the Clarion Ledger, as far as we're concerned, the manner of death was murder, and we're not going to relent until there is justice. U.S. Assistant Attorney General John Dunn said the FBI's investigation was thorough and impartial, adding that he reviewed the FBI's evidence and concluded that the investigation did not disclose a prosecutable violation of the federal criminal civil rights laws.
I always find it interesting how they word things.
Well, wording is important.
Yeah, of course, but, did not disclose a prosecutable violation. Does that mean could there have been some type of violation, but it's just not?
Yeah, I think you could say it that way, but you would think any violation that resulted in someone's death would be prosecutable. So I don't really know what that means, to be honest with you. I don't know if there's a hidden meaning there. Simpson County DA Rusty Fortenberry said he would still present the matter to a grand jury, as with any other violent death in the county. In February 1993, Andre's stepfather, Charles Quinn, told the New York Times the motive could have been several issues, but we know he didn't commit suicide. Family attorney Lumumba again expressed the belief that Andre was possibly killed because of his parents' ties to the NAACP and the Nation of Islam. Sheriff Lloyd Jones called the accusations ridiculous, saying, "I've been a sheriff a little over 17 years, and this is the first death I've had in this jail. I don't care who's in the jail. We don't ask, are your parents NAACP members or do they work for the church? That's none of our business."
Pretty straightforward about that.
Yeah, he is. I mean, I know we'll talk about it in the wrap up, but what I'm feeling right now is that I understand the family does not want to believe that Andre hung himself. I'm not seeing a lot, though, that, at least in the way of evidence, really showing something else, right? That somebody else caused his death. And I think that's what the DOJ came to, and probably why they came to what they did. The Justice Department ultimately cleared the sheriff of any wrongdoing. Sheriff Jones also said he was out of town when Andre died. Dr. Stephen Hain and Dr. James Bryant agreed that the real issue was the lack of safeguards and standards. Dr. Bryant told the New York Times, "I could be wrong about the homicide. I don't think I am, but my main beef is the jailers. They're not watching them. They just put them in the slammer and leave them there."
Well, I'm sure they're limited on staff and what they can oversee.
Yeah, I don't think in any jail or any prison that there's enough staff to watch all inmates every second of the day. It's just not possible. In February 1993, it was reported that the Jackson FBI's office was looking into jail hangings in Mississippi since 1987. Special Agent in Charge James Maddox said, "Because of the seemingly large number of deaths by hanging, we felt it was just a prudent decision to obtain more information to see if it merited any additional investigation." Maddox said the Mississippi FBI was acting on its own and there was no official request from the DOJ. So they went through all the records, right, of hanging deaths. Records showed 47 hangings in Mississippi jails or prisons since 1987, which were all ruled suicides. The United States Bureau of Justice statistics report indicated that for the years 1987 and 1988, suicide was the leading cause of death in U.S. jails. Suicides were disproportionately found in the South. 131 out of 284 suicides occurred in 15 southern states and the District of Columbia. 8 were reported in Mississippi. A 1988 study by the National Center on Institutions and Alternatives found that the suicide rate in jails was 9 times greater than the rate of the general population, and that most cases were hangings of young men shortly after they were detained for nonviolent crimes. And I found that to be very interesting. It doesn't surprise me at all that the suicide rate in jails is higher. I mean, you're in jail. A lot of people are not going to want to be there.
Yeah, they're not going to be okay, and they're going to want to do something about it.
Especially if you have a long sentence. But then when they say that most of the cases were hangings of young men shortly after they were detained, but for nonviolent crimes, which means, okay, they're probably not going to get the big time sentence, but right. They're so despondent over being in jail at all.
That seems strange to me.
It does. Dr. Stephen Hain, who investigated most of the Mississippi jail hangings, said there was no evidence of homicide and nothing to support the idea that there was a series of murders disguised as suicide. In March 1993, Dr. James Bryant, who performed the second autopsy, said law enforcement probably had nothing to do with Andre's death. He told the Clarion Ledger, "It's very likely another inmate. Some have suggested that the sheriff is killing inmates and that it's a conspiracy by the sheriff. I didn't think that. And I don't know what the motive for that would be. I'm not saying it couldn't happen. I'm just struggling to see what the motive would be. To kill a bunch of inmates and then frame them as suicides."
Yeah, what's the benefit of that for the sheriff?
Right. Now, do inmates kill other inmates? Sure. Could they possibly want to make it look like a suicide so there, nothing comes back on them? Yeah, possibly. Bryant outlined his theory of what happened to Andre, saying it's very likely that there was a scuffle in the jail and a guy strangled him. The bottom line is deputies shouldn't have left him in the jail. Hardened criminals are all in there. If some innocent guy gets stuck in this jail, who knows? There might be a murderer in there. Well, And that's kind of a tough statement to make because technically he wasn't innocent. He hadn't been proven guilty, but he was charged. And I think had already admitted to certain things. So I don't know if completely innocent is the right word. But technically, a lot of people in jail are innocent because they haven't gone to court yet.
Well, that's true.
So maybe he was meaning it that way.
He is a young guy,
Mm-hmm.
most likely naive to the prison system, the jail.
Yeah, he had no record. We said that.
Yeah. Probably an easy target.
Could be. Absolutely could be. What do we say? He weighed 160 pounds?
Yeah.
In April, Attorney General Janet Reno informed reporters in D.C. that she had directed the Civil Rights Division of the DOJ to investigate the Mississippi jail deaths. In August, Andre's mother, Esther Quinn, and his father, Alonzo Jones, filed a $25 million lawsuit, alleging that law enforcement was responsible for Andre's death. The defendants in the suit were the sheriff, the chief deputy, and the former Brandon police chief, a police sergeant, Simpson County, the Simpson County Sheriff's Department, the County Board of Supervisors, the City of Brandon, and the Brandon Police Department. The claims made in the suit represented the first time anyone connected with the family had publicly acknowledged suicide as a possibility. The suit cited three theories on how Andre could have died: at the hands of law officers, at the hands of someone else as a result of negligence by law officers, or that Andre killed himself because he was under emotional distress as a result of jail conditions and his treatment there.
So they're saying there should have been supervision where, at least on the second reason, right, if they had supervision on him, then somebody couldn't have killed him because the officers on duty
would have
guards,
stopped it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I get that would be the negligence. You know, the emotional distress as a result of jail conditions. That one's tough because a lot of jails are not good places. People do not want to go there and do not want to be there.
Yeah, you don't want a jail to be a country club.
I would say most of them are not even close. Family attorney Chokwe Lumumba said, per the Clarion Ledger, Andre Jones was either killed or was placed by defendants in conditions and circumstances which psychologically caused him to kill himself. The suit also stated that the police lacked sufficient legal reason to stop and detain Andre. The suit alleged that Brandon police officers intimidated Andre and threatened him with a harsh sentence. Ultimately, this lawsuit and a federal lawsuit were both dismissed. And to be honest with you, Gibbs, that it's really not all that surprising. You know, there's a lot here. There's a lot of people, you know, who are being sued, but I'm not hearing a lot of actual evidence.
Yeah.
I'm hearing theories, things like that. So I don't know that it was a strong case.
And you've had both the DOJ, the FBI come out and say that it was suicide.
Yeah, and maybe that all that factored in as well. In December 1993, the Justice Department called for the closing of 4 county jails in Mississippi, and it cited all 18 institutions it investigated as having substandard conditions that violated the Constitution. The study cited conditions such as maggot-infested cells, racially segregated cells for intoxicated people, and fire hazards. In some reports, the plumbing sent human waste into cell blocks.
Yeah, so when I said, obviously, it's not going to be like a country club, but it has to be sensible.
Human.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
and I think that's what, you know, we're dealing with here. But, you know, like I said, I've been watching this show 60 Days In. Some of these jails are really nasty, man.
Yeah.
And these are ones they're putting on TV, allowing TVs to come in. I can only imagine some of the ones who would never allow.
Yeah. What are we not seeing?
A TV crew to come in. Many jails were so inadequately staffed that violent or potentially suicidal inmates could not be monitored. And we talked about it, right? There was an investigation into the 47 suicides in Mississippi jails since 1987. Sorrell Brady, the head of the task force that investigated the jails, told the New York Times, "We're not singling out Mississippi, and we're not saying they're the worst in the country. We had reports of problems there, and the time was right to look at them, but we would consider another statewide investigation if other cases arose." The inspections found problems with staffing, medical care, training, and sanitation. In many cases, officials neglected to make even minimal effort to prevent suicides, such as removal of shoelaces and blocking access to exposed overhead pipes. A year after Andre died, Mississippi named Dr. Emily Ward as the new state medical examiner. Dr. Ward reviewed Andre's autopsy report and the autopsies of several other men who died by hanging in state jails. Dr. Ward determined, "I think that it's extremely unlikely that any of these deaths are anything other than suicide. All the deaths have been investigated by not just one agency, but one or two or sometimes three." So, Gibbs, as we wrap this up, Andre Jones's case is officially closed and the ruling remains suicide. Although there are, still unanswered questions. I think the big one is, if this was really suicide, what led Andre to take his life when he had not previously shown signs of depression? And as we talked about, he was unlikely to face prison time for the charges he faced.
Yeah, it's really just a matter of a short period of time before he probably got in front of a judge and was probably released.
Yeah, I'm assuming he would have gotten a bond. His family most likely would have bonded him out. Yeah. He would have gone to trial maybe at a later date, but by all accounts, his sentence wouldn't have been very severe, and it's possible that he wouldn't have done any jail time or prison time.
So then you have to wonder, okay, what made him so depressed or so worried about his future there? Did someone put the fear into him, or maybe there's something underlying there that we just don't know? And we're never going to know.
Yeah, and then really the other side of the coin, I think, as the family still does believe, is that, he was killed. The problem is, where's any evidence really showing that? Even the medical examiner that they hired kind of walked it back a little bit and said, well, I could be wrong about the homicide, but I don't think I am. So you would have to think it was either inmates who all banded together and said, hey, nobody's going to talk about this, and we're going to kill this kid for reasons unknown, or it was the staff who somehow came in, killed him in the shower, and none of the inmates spoke up about it or saw it. And some of that stuff just doesn't seem real plausible. It's kind of hard to put your finger on. And on top of that, I don't think there's really any evidence that kind of bears that out. So it is somewhat of a mystery. I think the biggest mystery is, if it really was a suicide, why? But that's it for our episode on Andre Jones. We got a voicemail. You want to check that out?
Let's hear it.
Hi, Michelle from Dallas, Texas. Please disregard my previous 2 messages. They were hostile and very adjective. My issue is with, I listened to you forever on Spotify Plus, and you listed the numbers sequence, and now you don't. So I think that's my husband again. Anyway, so wrapping it up, I would say absolutely, just do something about that. I can't find where I was because you don't list 1, 2, 3. I was on 348, I think. I don't know. Some bad guy with the name Jesse. I don't remember his last name. But now I'm going to have to search for it, and I've been searching for it. That's why I finally called. Yes, chop this voicemail up, eat it, listen, what have you. Here's the thing. I love you guys. I love you equally. I have learned factually through life to keep my head on the swivel or watch my 6. So, anyway, I'm going to go back to Spotify and figure out where I left off. It'd be great if you numbered those episodes for those of us that listen to you and then we're transferred to listen to you and to support you. That'd be wonderful. Thanks. Bye.
All right, we love you. Yeah, you should hear the first 2 before that.
Yeah.
they were kind of rough.
Yeah.
They were kind of rough. So what I will say, and the reason why I wanted to play that, is we do number our episodes.
We do.
But we don't actually put them on Spotify. We don't do anything with Spotify.
Right.
Spotify takes all the information from our RSS feed, is what it's called. And what they do with it, we don't really have any control over. No. Whether they put the numbers on there or I really don't know.
I mean, you could go out to our website,
YouTube, another podcast player, but I sometimes, and it does seem to be Spotify. People will say, hey, your last 2 episodes aren't on Spotify, but I go out there and I look and they're there.
Yeah.
So it's their Spotify somehow that's not working but yeah, I can't really help because we haven't changed anything, and whatever it is, it's probably on their end. But.
Yeah.
All right, buddy, that is it for another episode of True Crime All the Time Unsolved. So for Mike
and Gibby,
stay safe and keep your own time ticking.